Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you all are having a great day. Today I want to share with you a new project that I just completed, an outdoor sofa. Now I've been really enjoying doing some woodworking lately, and fun fact, this is the very first thing that I have ever created out of wood. I'm mainly a metal guy, and this was the first project that I've ever tackled using wood, and I have to say it was one heck of a learning experience. So many mistakes. I got to use a ton of new tools and gain confidence in some different tools, and it was a really fun process. So I wanted to share with you guys today kind of the process that I used to build this thing, just highlight a couple of things, talk about the materials, and talk about some of the things that I learned and show you the final product. So without further ado, let's check it out. Taking a look at the materials for this project, there really wasn't a whole lot besides the 2x4s and then this stuff here on my workbench. So the first thing was a set of cushions. I got these at Big Lots. They were around $40, but they have the same ones on Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart. There's a bunch of different places that have them when they're in season. So I picked up 2 sets of those. Had some basic wood screws, some 2.5-inch Craig screws, which were actually the wrong size, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Some 180 and 80 grit sandpaper, some foam brushes for the stain, a regular paintbrush, some rags. I had some Titebond 3 wood glue, wood stain, and spar urethane, which I actually didn't end up using, and I'll talk more about that later as well. In terms of tools, sander, R3 Craig jig. This was a new jig that I picked up. Really useful. I know these are very popular, but it was the first time that I ever used one, and I realized why they're so popular. They are super convenient, and they get rid of all the visible screws that a lot of people use in projects. And then I have my circular saw, tape measure, speed square, and a pencil. Other than that, the only other thing that I really found useful was my little Stanley clamping table. This is the first time that I've used this as well on an actual project, and it worked out really well. Now, I did get to use my new DeWalt planer. Like I said, I've been getting into woodworking a little bit, so I have been buying some tools. And this was really cool because I was able to take some old lumber that I already had, as well as some lumber that I picked up from Home Depot, to take this really kind of rough cut wood and give it a really nice smooth face on either side. So this was a great way to do this with the planer. It was quick and easy. It only took me about 20 or 30 minutes to do all the boards, and you can see there's a big difference in the top of the face of the board there versus the old board, what it used to look like. So definitely worth the time investment to do that. So in terms of design, the bench itself was really simple and really easy to put together for a beginner like me. I followed a video by a YouTuber named Ox in the Shop, and I'll post his video in the video description. That's why I'm not really making this a tutorial, because he already has a really good tutorial video on his channel. But I copied his design, and it came out really good. I mean, for the amount of work that it took, it looks pretty impressive in my opinion for what it is. So I think that just about anybody can do a project like this with some basic tools. You know, it's basically cutting boards to length, arranging them, and using pocket holes to attach them together. The pocket hole jig is so convenient, and I think that's probably why you hear that word a million times in all these woodworking videos, because there's just no other way to really put these boards together so quickly and to make it look so nice with no visible screws. So definitely glad that I bought that R3 pocket hole jig, and super excited to use it some more. Now, in terms of making this cross section, I guess this was probably the hardest part of the build, but it was really easy. I used Ox in the Shop's method of marking a center line on the board and then putting those center lines in the corner of the square shape that they were going to go into, and then just tracing out the lines and cutting them with a circular saw. After trying to make these cuts with a circular saw, I am really excited to invest in a miter saw, because it would have made really quick work of this little section right here, and it would have gave me far better results. I struggled a little bit trying to get these cuts perfect, and as a maker, you know, you want everything to be perfect because you see only the mistakes, whereas other people just see the whole thing. And this is kind of where my mistakes came in. I really wanted these cuts to be perfect, and they were not, but they were close enough to give a good final result. Once I had all the pieces cut out and the pocket holes drilled, all I did was assemble it together with the correct 2-inch pocket hole screws, not the 2.5-inch screws that I previously bought, and this was the end result. So the end caps were finished. Next up, it was a matter of just adding boards on the bottom for the cushion supports. So my cushions were 24 inches wide, so I made the boards 48 inches. Looking back, I could have made these boards just a tad bit shorter to keep those cushions nice and tight against each other, because they do compress a little bit. But I got all the boards attached using pocket hole screws and set the other end cap on top and slowly tightened it down until everything was lined up correctly. And that created the bottom of the bench. So at this point, when I flipped it over, it actually started to look like something. And if you guys know, when you're in a long project, that once this moment happens, you get a lot of motivation to finish. I did sit on the bench before I decided to add the back pieces, and I noticed that the middle boards did have a little bit of movement. So I added a center support and drilled holes and added wood screws, and it was rock solid after that. Definitely worthwhile. Now for the back support for the cushions, I pretty much just did this by eye. I took a piece of 2x4 and kind of roughly put them where I wanted them and just cut a small angle on the bottom of the board and attached the board to the back of the piece with pocket hole screws and then some wood screws that went into the armrest on the side. After that, I went ahead and cut out the boards for the horizontal back supports, drilled pocket holes, and then used a C-clamp and a spare piece of 2x4 to go ahead and space those out along the back to support the cushions. I then had myself a fully completed bench, and I had to throw the cushions on it to see what it was going to look like, and man, it was looking killer. At this point, I was really excited, and it was time to send it off to the yard for stain. I started the staining process with a pre-stained wood conditioner. I never knew this stuff existed, but after doing a little bit of research, people say this helps get rid of the blotchiness that regular stain can oftentimes give. So I just wiped it on with a rag, took about 15 minutes, and then I let it dry for about another 25 minutes. It was then time to choose a stain color. I used 2 pieces of scrap wood and did 2 different color stains, and I really liked the dark walnut, so that's the color that we went with. So at this point, I started mixing up the stain, and I used one of the disposable foam brushes you can get at Home Depot to go ahead and apply the stain, and I liked using that a lot better than a rag. This was by far the most satisfying part of the project, staining the entire thing, and I think it came out really, really well. The entire staining process took about 45 minutes with the 2 of us, and what we did is we stained for about 5 to 10 minutes depending on where we were, and then we would take a break to wipe off all the excess stain. We are doing this in the middle of summer, so the stain can dry rather quickly, and you don't want that stain to get all gummed up and dry out because then it's harder to wipe off. This was the end result after the staining was complete, and it looked killer. It was exactly what we wanted, and I love making things like this that I actually want for myself, and I can make them to my own specifications and make them a lot cheaper. You know, something like this could go for $300, $400 at a big box store when I was able to just make it myself. So really cool project. I was going to finish this in spar urethane. However, I learned that if you put spar urethane on, it'll last 1 to 2 years. And then when you have to go to reapply it, it could be an absolute pain to sand the whole thing down. So instead, I think I'm just going to treat this wood with a linseed oil or something like that, keep it protected, and do that every few months. And this will be under an overhang, so it will not get a lot of direct sunlight or rain. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the outdoor sofa build. I really appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see me learn some more woodworking stuff in the future. I got some more projects planned, and I'll have links to all the materials used in this video down in the video description. You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.